Friends, Namaskar. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Priya Ranjan Trivedi. As you are already aware, yesterday I had traced the starting of our relationship with Dr. Uttam Kumar Singh ji, who breathed his last and went for the heavenly award on 25th of July this year. Since then, we have been so much depressed. We never knew that he will expire so soon. We have been working together for the last 47 years, and there are thousands of memories, different types of activities which we implemented together, programs and projects we designed and launched from time to time. Yesterday, my delivery was in Hindi, but then my friends from South India and my friends from abroad started calling me, sending me WhatsApp messages that we understood nothing because they have no idea regarding Hindi language. Although Hindi, our national language, is spoken in most parts of India except southern India. So, friends, I thought it is my duty to express my views again in English. But in the meantime, there was a development. Yesterday, we through video conferencing decided that there will be a commemoration committee by the name of Dr. Uttam Kumar Singh Commemoration Committee to commemorate him and also his deeds, his contribution, and we'll publicize it so that the institution building a strategy he had designed and implemented could be repeated time and again by young institution builders, also the government departments and ministries, international organizations. I, being the chairperson of the committee, was asked not to locate another person for the first Dr. Uttam Kumar Singh Memorial Lecture. Yesterday we decided but that every year there will be a memorial lecture. It depends. We can do it on his birthday, which is 13th October, as he was born on 13th October 1952. It can be done on his Punyatithi, but this year it is in fitness of things that we do it immediately. Yesterday the Shraddha Karma was over according to our Samaj Padhati, and now we thought there should be a memorial lecture. So I am fortunate to have been asked to present the first Dr. Uttam Kumar Singh Memorial Lecture. In the memorial lecture, there is always a topic. No doubt, first memorial lecture topic is on skilling. His vision for skilling, he worked day and night, and we together had a joint vision of ensuring that at least we train 700 million young boys and girls so that they could take up challenges of this century and the third millennium, especially in India. For other countries, we had country-wise program. All the 200 countries in the world were included by us, and we had decided that there will be a series, a world series on countries. Accordingly, we have made encyclopedias on more than 100 countries, but it is yet to complete, where there is a special stress on skilling. Before I start the memorial lecture, it is also my duty to again trace the origin of our relationship, friendship, which we started 47 years ago. So once we finish that, we will come to skilling also. Friends, you will be pleased to know that Dr. Uttam Kumar Singh was born on 13th October 1952 in a village known as Gaudabdi, which is near Kharagpur, Haveli Kharagpur, in Munger district of Bihar. They were from Tomar community. It is said that their family had migrated long back from Rajasthan, but for the last several hundred years, they were in Munger. He studied at Bhagalpur, at Mandar Vidyapeeth, also at Muzaffarpur and Patna. Friends, after completing his intermediate, as his father, Honorable late Sri Anand Sastri, whose original name was Sajdanand Singh, who was a very senior official in the Department of Information and Public Relations of the Government of Bihar. As the Deputy Director of Public Relations, he was posted at Muzaffarpur, heading the Tirhut Division of Bihar. There, he did many activities. He was so much trained in public relations that there was a time when Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru used to come to Bihar, any part of Bihar, present Bihar and Jharkhand all together. Whenever Pandit Nehru or for example Dr. Rajendra Prasad or Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, I mean the President, Vice President, Prime Minister used to come. That time, 4 or 5 hours before the arrival of the VIP, there is to be a lecture, a bhashan, which he was doing only. Because people from far places used to understand that the VIP has come and then they used to assemble. These days the system is different. That instead of announcing such thing, you have 500 buses, hire people and make a crowd. That was not the thing that time. I'm talking between 1950 and 1960. So friends, that way I met Uttam ji in the year 1973 when I had come from BIT Mesra Ranchi after completing my degree in engineering, and I was asked by the central government, the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, the Birla Institute of Scientific Research, as well as the Birla Institute of Technology and United Commercial Bank, to do a potential survey, the industrial potential survey of North Bihar. Because North Bihar is rich in agriculture, but there are very less industries. How to revive the sick industries and how to have new industries, either small, medium, large. So we spent about 6 months' time in preparing a project report, which was submitted to the proper authorities, and we decided that we will also have the training for the young entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurship development program, which we started doing. That time, Uttam ji was studying in the Rameswar Singh College of the Bihar University at Muzaffarpur. So, he completed his bachelor's degree in 1975 and got admitted to the MBA. So far I am concerned, because I had degree in production engineering and industrial engineering, and I knew everything of production management, which was a compulsory paper at the College of Business Management at Muzaffarpur, which was started at the behest of late Lalit Narayan Mishra, who was the Railway Minister of India at that time. He asked his brother, late Dr. Jagannath Mishra, who was that time the Irrigation Minister, and later on he became the Chief Minister of Bihar 2-3 times. So friends, that way it was quite evident that in the absence of the expert of production management, the Bihar University, although had a curriculum of production management including other 24 papers, experts were there for other subjects, but for the batch starting in 1973 and 74, 2 years we are almost going to complete, but the teaching of production management was not completed. Bihar University decided that they will have some experts from outside, otherwise how shall the students write the exam? How shall they take the exam? In that case, fortunately, I was contacted by the director of the L.N. Mishra College of Business Management that time, which was the College for Business Management in 73-74, but on the year 1975, because late Honorable Lalit Narayan Mishra was assassinated at Samastipur, and then in his memory, the name of Lalit Narayan Mishra was added. So there, I taught in 73 and 74 to the students by asking the students to get the all other classes suspended. The director agreed, and every day spending 7 to 8 hours, I completed the syllabus in record time by not only giving theory classes but also case studies, relevance of business games to administration and management, storytelling, also telling them about the books which they can refer, so they were so much satisfied. In the meantime, while I was an adjunct faculty, I thought in the year 1975 we must get admitted, because by teaching I won't get an MBA degree. So I was very much crazy about that, because while we studied engineering at Ranchi, we saw many newspapers where articles used to be there in the magazines coming from UK and USA that it is a must, and it's very much desirable that those who are studying engineering and who have studied engineering, unless they go for a management course, it is very difficult that they will optimize their valuable sources. So I got an opportunity. In that batch, Uttamji was also admitted, so we became good friends. But right from 1973, we were friends because he was 2 years younger to me, and he used to come to my place to know what are my plans. I said that we are going to be a job giver. We can't seek a job. Although I was working after completing my engineering under the placement scheme, 100% placement scheme of BIT Mesra, we got excellent job in Kolkata in a very, very big multinational company. But I thought, no, I will have some training for 1-2 months to know what is the environment in industry or in office. But then Uttam, you also thrilled. He said, this is also my desire, but I was not telling anybody. Now that I have met you, let us start some activity regarding enterprise development, entrepreneurship, also institution building. I said, my idea is to see how institutions are created, how institutions get indisposed, why they become sick, what are the prescriptions to overcome the stages of sickness, why are the institutions murdered sometimes, and why are the institutions get stagnated maybe after 4 or 5 years, and what are the stages of stagnation and what are the solutions to somehow overcome the stages of stagnation. We agreed that we will work together, we will research on this topic. I said, we have 2 years time. The classes are there for 4-5 hours. We will work for 15 hours. Then side by side we started our activity, so that no sooner the courses are finished, we will go for the entrepreneurial career in the area of edu entrepreneurship. I coined the word edu entrepreneurship way back in 1976, educational entrepreneurship. And then we also had many, many new types of entrepreneurship. Even political activity is also an entrepreneurship. And we, in collaboration with IIM Bangalore, we decided a master plan of providing training to the young boys who could go into politics. And most of the politicians who are now very old, they got training from us as to how to become a good politician, how to become a good orator, how to convince people, how to really do social work. We proved the principle that a politician must have a background of social work. If they don't do social work, if they don't have any experience, and after becoming a politician, if they don't practice social work, it is very unlikely that they can't be popular. It is very unlikely that they will be popular, they will never be popular. So that way, all these things started. We spent 2 years' time. In the meantime, we decided, he was saying that his father is very much keen to get him placed in TISCO or Telco. I said, both the MDs are my friends. He said, how? I said, yes. While in engineering, I used to go there, and I was very close to Mr. Roshi Modi, the MD of TISCO, and Mr. Saroj J. Gandhi of Telco. People call him Saroj Gandhi. No, he is not Saroj Gandhi. Accordingly, Firoz Gandhi was not Firoz Gandhi. The wife of Madam Indira Gandhi was Firoz Gandhi, Ghandy, Gandhi. It is a Parsi surname. But somehow people called, perhaps Mahatma Gandhi asked him to, rename his surname. He became Gandhi. It is good. So friends, he said, no, I will not meet either Sarosh Jai Gandhi or Lucy Modi. We'll work together. We started working together. Now, it was the year 1977 when the Janata Party came, and it was going to come because the Congress government had become unpopular. That time, I remember Honorable Sri George Fernandes, who was in jail because of the Baroda Dynamite case where his name was given. It was later on proved that it was wrong, but while filing the nomination to become an MP from Muzaffarpur in Bihar, he filed the nomination while he was in jail. So after he became MP, he became the Minister for Communications. Hardly somebody remembers that in 77, after elections, he was for 3-4 months the Communication Minister of India. But he is more renowned as the Industry Minister of India. Anyway, so he won the elections. We thought now it is high time that we establish our institution and we go to Patna after getting the institution inaugurated at Muzaffarpur, because he agreed to inaugurate the institution at Muzaffarpur because that was his constituency. First time he came, and that way, the other MPs, including Honorable Sri Mahan Sundar Das, who was also elected along with Mr. George Fernandes, he assured us that yes, the program will be coordinated. He and that time Minister Professor Thakur Prasad Singh, they all coordinated. They were the coordinators for his visit. So first program was our program, inauguration of the Institute of Management, which we shifted to Patna, Indian Institute of Business Management, IIBM. And then it was formally inaugurated on 15th April 1977. We were very happy, and the guidelines given by Mr. George Fernandes went a long way in deciding the strategies and the guideline and preparing a master paradigm for launching the management programs. And we thought, whatever we do, we decided the milestone that management education by 2000 AD, what will be the shape that time, and what will be the employment scenario by 2000 AD, the environment scenario by 2000 AD, all those things we did. And accordingly, the IIBM got shifted there, and then we also had the Patna campus inaugurated by the Chief Minister. That time, Sri Yashwant Sinha ji, who became the Finance Minister of India, who was a bureaucrat and who has been a bureaucrat, was the Principal Secretary of the Chief Minister. So he helped us, and he also wrote the inaugural address, which was a very standard English. We were very happy, and we started learning from that time, because learning is an experience, not that somebody is born with full knowledge. So we started gathering information regarding the management aspect of an institution. For that matter, we visited IIM Kolkata, IIM Bangalore, IIM Ahmedabad, spent time there, designed the curriculum, met the professors, and the director of IIM Kolkata said that because Patna is very near, all those professors who are from Bihar will be asked to go there. Whenever they go home, they will spend 2-3 days more by coming to our institution and lecturing before the students, so that they could know the standards of teaching, and other teachers will also be trained while they will be sitting in the same classroom. That was very good. We had 100% placement because we had jointly decided that the problem of unemployment is there because the placement cell is not strengthened. And every time we find that the employers say that we don't get the good employees, good products. So we thought we must reduce the communication back almost to zero. And in that case, we thought whatever is their demand, whatever they need that the students should know, we started teaching them. And unlike the other management institutes or engineering colleges where they depend on say 20 or 30 employers, we said no, we will contact 3,000 to 5,000 employers. So that if our 120 students come out, they must have 4 or 5 alternatives. They will go to this organization or that organization. The same thing happened. When we had lack of students because all 20 were placed, many big firms used to come and camp at Patna in Maurya Hotel or Chanakya Hotel and used to say, give me 2 students. Ask them to resign. If they are in a smaller company, we'll give them a little higher salary, but give us. So that situation and that environment has to be created. Everything has to be done. It's not that something is already existing. So friends, that way, as we started MBA first, we thought the other possibilities are hotel management and computer science. So we started MBA and hotel management together. Unfortunately, in hotel management, there was no response. Not even one admission. Whereas in MBA, we had thousands of applications and we had to select only first 60 and then another 60. So that way, there was a good competition. But in hotel management, not even one admission took place and we were very sorry about it. We did a survey. We looked back and saw what is wrong. We came to know that there was no awareness in that area in Bihar regarding hotel management. They were saying our sons and daughters can't become waiters. No, we can't do it. But again, after having different seminars and interaction camps, we publicized everything and we told that yes, there are big institutions in Delhi, there is an institution in Pusa, and there is in Kolkata, there is an institution in Tartola, the Institute of Hotel Management, Catering, Applied Nutrition, and we are going to have something better than that because we are very late in starting, so we have revised our syllabus. Next time when we started, there were hundreds of admissions overnight. Then we decided that we will also help other states. Me and Professor U.K. Singh went to different states, met the Chief Minister and also the Governor, besides the Chief Secretaries, and told them that we would like to reserve seats for your states because we contacted only such states where management teaching or hotel management teaching was not going on. Every state agreed, they were overwhelmed. Rather, they said that we will select the candidate through advertisement. We said that we will give you 2 seats in hotel management, 2 in MBA. Because total seats were 120 only. They used to select them, they used to sponsor them, the entire scholarship was given, payment were given, fee were paid by the governments. After passing out, they got jobs in the government also. And examples are the states like even Arunachal Pradesh or Sikkim or Assam or Himachal Pradesh, everywhere. All students were placed because they came with the expenditure incurred by the state government. Again, in the year 1979, December, we thought of having a computer course, and the computer course was designed by us. When we came to Delhi and talked to the authorities in the Department of Electronics, because that was the only related ministry, they said, there is no other computer institute in India. How are you starting? Where will you get the computer from? I said, we have a very good syllabus for 6 months and followed by another 6 months, 1-year course. And we would like to teach programming and operations and maintenance. Everything we'll teach. So they said, you can do it. Then we got approval from Bihar government on the lines of one which we got for hotel management and postgraduate diploma in management as equivalent to MBA degree. So friends, that way our activities started gathering momentum. And then we also thought of having similar activities. After we would have bought the computer, we started doing survey as to how to get computers from Japan or anywhere. In the meantime, we were fortunate to see that the Hindustan Computers Limited, which is the richest company in India, and the chairman, Mr. Shiv Nadar, is one of the richest persons in the world and India. He and his another director, Arjun Malhotra, came to us and said that we have started a company and we are yet to supply computers anywhere. And we have a few computers which we would like to sell and we import again. We said we will be the first person to give the order. After our order, which was sold to other governments, he got a few orders also. But by the way, he was yet to import a computer. It took another 3 months. We were very much nervous. Our classes had begun. Then it was brought to Kolkata, from where we transported it to Patna. It used to be a very big size computer, but the capacity was very less. Now the computer which is costing 25,000, that time it was costing 5 lakhs. So we managed somehow, and it was a very much pleasure for us to launch the courses, asked the Chief Minister of Bihar, Dr. Jagannath Mishra, to inaugurate, and he was with about 15 ministers who also wanted to see the computer for the first time in their lives. They encouraged us, and from that time we never looked back, and every time and every year we used to give birth to new institutions. In 1980, when Dr. Zakir Hussain, Dr. A.R. Kidwai became the governor, he said that you must remember Dr. Zakir Hussain, because he was the founder of Bunyadi Shiksha and the need-based education. So he gave us the example of Jamia Millia Islamia, which was started by Dr. Zakir Hussain. That time it was a private university. In spite of the fact that there was no recognition, he started it. And in India, nobody used to recognize. Delhi University did not recognize. Government of India did not recognize. But most of the American universities recognized, because American universities were believing in the curriculum, not in recognition. So even Dr. A.R. Kidwai had to go to do a PhD, because after MSc, Delhi University said that your MSc is not recognized. But he went to US, did a PhD, became very famous, became a lecturer, a professor, vice chancellor, then chairman UPSC and governor. He said, you must remember, have an institution. So besides Indian Institute of Business Management, we have started the Dr. Zakir Hussain Institute for Non-Formal and Continuing Education, and both the institutions started working together, although campus was different. We were approached by the Department of Electronics now in the year 1982-83, when Dr. M.S. Sanjeevi Rao was the then minister in charge. He was a member of Parliament Lok Sabha, but he was declared uncontested. He was a unique personality, a big scientist. Otherwise, you know, it is very rare that a member of Lok Sabha will be winning uncontested and there are no elections. It hardly happens. But he told that we would like to give you grants. We sponsor all your projects. We had 4 or 5 computer-related projects, computer-related non-formal continuing education, computer-related, you know, postgraduate diploma in computer applications through Hindi medium. Not only in Hindi medium, but by using computers where the software will be helping us to design everything in Hindi, write in Hindi, make books in Hindi. So this was a miracle. We also got funds for buying 12 video cameras, which we imported from Japan. And the government of Bihar, government of India gave us exemption in the excise duty. And then after that we started, right from the year 84, we started making video magazines. We used to call them video magazines. The way printed magazines used to come, we had video magazines, and we used to have study materials all through video. We circulated all over India, and I told you, every year we used to have 1 or 2 institutions. We had diversified to journalism and mass communication, broadcast journalism, news agency journalism, public relations, advertising, besides MBA, hotel management and computers. In the meantime, when we produced the first batch in 1980, and they were placed, when we went to the industries, we saw that the promoters are mainly interested, the chief executives and CEOs were interested. Somehow there is a profiteering, or for that matter, profit-making game. Of course, by paying right salary to the staff, by using the right materials, by maintaining quality. But the main priority was profit. And there was no priority or no talk of pollution control or pollution abatement. that struck my mind, and I talked with Professor Yuka Singh. Both of us were working during the night for 7-8 hours to decide what is to be done. Then we jointly decided that yes, besides these institutions which we are having, the IIBM, Dr. Zakir Hussain Institute for Non-Formal Continuing Education, National Center for Developmental Communication for Journalism related courses, we said we'll have Indian Institute of Ecology and Environment. And we thought we'll register it first at Patna, get the full recognition, get it inaugurated, and then finally we'll shift the campus to Delhi, because that is a place from where we can cover all over India. That was decided. The government of Bihar gave recognition. But in the meantime, we thought we'll ask the Honorable Minister of Environment, Government of India. We told him that, sir, our institution was established before you became the minister and before your Ministry of Environment was created. I said, how? I said, we started in 1980. We went to the Prime Minister and said that there should be a Ministry of Environment because now Indian Institute of Ecology and Environment is already there. Then she said that it is possible and let me appoint a committee, because without the approval and recommendation of a committee, it is very unlikely that we will have a Ministry of Environment. That time, pollution control or such activities were looked after by Department of Science and Technology. I said, no, there should be certainly a ministry, because Honorable Madam Indira Gandhi had committed before the United Nations in the year 1972 on 5th June, where I was also a student delegate. When UN proposed that all the countries of the world, that time there might have been 150 countries, now it is 200, all 150 countries will have to create a Ministry of Environment. Some 24 heads agreed, including India's Prime Minister. So she remembered, and then she said that generally we ask the Deputy Chairperson of Planning Commission, who is the de facto head of Planning Commission, because the Chairperson is the Prime Minister, who is very busy in other activities. So that time the notification was issued that Mr. Narayan Dutt Tiwari, who is the Deputy Chairperson, will be chairing a committee known as Tiwari Committee to find the viability of having a Ministry of Environment. People never knew that he is the chairman, and now also nobody remembers, because Mr. Tiwari is more known as Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand. So again we met him time and again, and it took about 2 years for him to decide. And in the year 1982 there was not a ministry but a Department of Environment was started. We were happy about it. So the Honorable Minister agreed, Mr. Z. Ansari agreed to come and launch our courses. We had full satisfaction, and we had 2 batches admitted at Patna. Some 5,000 to 6,000 students were admitted. Examination centers were of India. That time there was no control of distance education. That was very good. Now it is controlled, so now students are not able to get admitted, and certainly it is a very big loss to the young minds. So we started all those courses. It was a grand success. We shifted to Delhi. We got the entire office, library and our documents to Delhi, got it registered again, and got collaborated with more than 32 universities from India and from the rest of the world. And then we started publications. In the meantime, Professor Yuka Singh was more keen on skilling. He said skilling is a must. So he said unless the paramedical courses are started at Patna, only computer courses are not going to help, only hotel management courses are not going to help. So then a department of skilling was started, and the National Community College for Skill Development was created by us, where we started locating courses. So friends, before I start talking about his contribution in skilling and in memorial lecture, there has to be a general talk about a particular subject. So we'll talk A to Z of skilling in brief. So friends, after that, once we went to Delhi, we started diversifying all over the world, had branches there. We had a consultancy division, Educational Consultancy Organization of India, EduQuan, and through EduCoin we went to the rest of the world to help the governments. We wrote to the governments that you must have the environment courses, and anywhere in some states or in some country if there were less universities, we said that you must have vocational universities or open universities. Accordingly, we were invited there. We said that we won't take any honorarium. We'll do it for free. We'll go with the plane ticket bought by us, but the local hospitality will be of the respective countries. So we just accepted the hospitality by them, but in that way we were so successful that wherever we went, almost every country agreed that they will have some activities, some institution of national importance, or the strengthening of the existing environmental activities in a existing university, or for that matter creating a new university. Most of the countries asked us to start new universities, we did it. But when we came to India, we thought we don't have our own university. We have our institutions, so many institutions on diplomacy, on bioinformatics and geoinformatics, intellectual property rights, disaster management, sustainable development, peace studies, all those things. We are having different institutions, one course and one institution. By the time we had about 50 institutions, and we used to admit about 20,000 students every year. But every time we had to depend on some universities, and thanks to those universities who collaborated, they said, these are so good courses. You decide the curriculum, we adopt the curriculum in our academic council, we conduct the exam, you teach. Once they pass, we'll offer the mark sheet, we'll issue the degrees. That was a very good arrangement. But when we started discussing with those universities to have further new courses, they said that there is a limitation and we have our existing courses, so our load is too much. Then we thought, either we have the option of collaborating with those universities which we started outside. We said no. We must have an Indian degree. Then we convinced the government. We convinced many governments that it is possible, the way the state governments start creating state universities by getting a state legislation or state legislation passed in the state legislative assembly. I said you do accordingly, but the only difference will be that at the end of the legislation it will be written that this will not be state funded, rather it will be self-financed, and the sponsoring agency will be financing. They said, who is the agency? I said, our agency. We had already created in 1974 the World Institution Building Program, a global institution, an international charity we have started as a public charitable trust with the hope that we will be creating institutions worldwide. So we said our institution WIPP there, it will fund the university because we had large surplus, because we knew as to how to optimize the available resources, and we had spent so many years, about as soon as we had spent 15 years, in the year 1995 we started all these activities. And then we jointly established Sikkim Manipal University in association with Honorable Dr. Ram Das Pai of Manipal, and then there also we started many courses. It took about 5 years to start a medical college and engineering college, but from the day one we started 20 environment related courses from Delhi, and then we thought we should have an open university. So we wrote to almost all the governments, and most of the governments agreed, but they were buying time. In the meantime, the smaller states, they are very much responsive. So the government of Arunachal Pradesh and government of Nagaland approached us through the chief minister and governor, and they said that, well, we are already there, why are you bothering? I said, nobody is passing an act. He said, we will do it. And they said that within a week we will get it passed. We were thrilled. Now, Arunachal Pradesh government signed the MOU. They decided in the cabinet, but because there was some infighting going on, there was a change of government, we could not be successful. Although MOU was there, everything was there, but in 2004, the government of Nagaland decided that no, we will have it. They notified, and they said that now we shall work together on drafting of the act, because they had no experience of such privately funded universities. They talked to UGC, they went here and there, and finally it took some time, but in 2006 the act was finally passed. First it was returned by the governor because he could not understand. We made him everything understand, and then he also agreed. It was accepted by the governor, and in 2006 we started the Global Open University by getting it inaugurated by the then Chief Minister, who is also the present Chief Minister. Honorable Sri Nephew Rio was the Chief Minister at that time, and he is Chief Minister even now. So that was a very good exercise. We started about 250 courses because we knew that one day we will start the university. So we had the entire lessons prepared. You will not believe, 1.5 million pages, 15 lakhs pages we had prepared from before. So is the work done by Dr. UK Singh and myself. So it was a big exercise. In 2012, the Indira Gandhi Technological and Medical Sciences University came. We said we can't use the word of name of Honorable Indira Gandhi because we have taken permission from Indira Gandhi Foundation. State government said no. If you approach, you have to take permission. But if we tell you that you have to keep this name, no permission is required. So they said that no, we issue our veto and this will be the university. I said fine. Name, there's nothing in the name, whatever name is there. So in 2012 it was started, and since then the Indira Gandhi Technological and Medical Sciences University is also functioning quite well. In Arunachal Pradesh at a place known as Zero. In Nagaland it is at Dimapur. So friends, by doing all this, we thought of having the publications activity strengthened, and we published about 5,000 books. It took some time, and some of the books became the study material. Some were textbooks, some were reference books, some were case books, and then we started different courses in management, administration, law, juridical science, psychology, or library science, or education, science and technology, all those areas, paramedical sciences. So such was the big list of courses, and we prepared about 50 encyclopedias running into say 10 volumes to 50 volumes, which is a world record. That way everything was going on. There was a sad demise, we never knew. He talked to me and he said that he is not feeling well. He was admitted to the hospital where the doctors were there, and Dr. Jitan Singh, who is a renowned cancer specialist, he is very thick friend of ours. He was very close to Dr. UK Singh. He said, no, we will take care of this because he has 100-bedded hospital and every facility is there. So he went there. He got the help of oxygen because of some breathing trouble, and finally the same night he expired. So after that, we do not know what is to be done. We have to prepare a cadre of young professionals. The second generation has to take over because Dr. UK Singh and me were working so hard day and night that we did not know how to prepare a good cadre. And the second generation training has to be strengthened and started. Although they started, but it has to be given a good shape. So I said that no, the team will work and everybody will work together. So we thought, whosoever are with us, like in Patna, or the campuses are there in Dehradun, or for that matter, we have another campus in Goa, we have in Vrindavan, we have in Delhi, we have in Patna headquarters, and the office is in, big campus is there in Ranchi, Jamshedpur, Dhanbad, Muzaffarpur, Munger, Bhagalpur, many places are there. We are also contemplating to have more campuses because 6-7 state governments offered us 50 acres to 100 acres of land. We could not take it because we are so busy with our courses. Now we will revive those applications and proposals to see, even if we don't get 100 or 50, we could get even 5 to 10 acres, which is enough for branch campuses. So that way everything is going on. My learned nephew, who is the son of Dr. UK Singh, Mr. Rohit Singh, and Professor UK Singh's daughter, Somyanisi, and my two daughters, Sonu is there, and Tanuja is there. So Dr. Sonu is already posted in South Korea, heading the Indian Cultural Center in Seoul, deputed by the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. My younger daughter, Dr. Tanuja Trivedi, is looking after the different institutions in Delhi. Accordingly, my son-in-law is there, who is looking after the Indian Institute of Human Rights. Then my another nephew, Dr. Utkarsh Sharma, is there, who is helping the Government of India in implementing the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Clean India campaign, which is a big campaign, and under the aegis of the institution, he has created National Institute of Cleanliness Education and Research, NICER. There are programs, certificate, diploma, post-diploma, postgraduate diploma, all courses are there. And in association with about 5 universities, the bachelor's and master's and doctorate degree in cleanliness, hygiene and sanitation have been designed and being launched, and the Encyclopedia of Cleanliness, Hygiene and Sanitation already prepared and distributed to hundreds of universities. My daughter Tanuja has edited and brought out a 50-volume World Encyclopedia of Women's Development. While we were busy in ecology, environment, disaster management, and Professor Yuka Singh was totally busy in the study materials for paramedical sciences and skill development. So we together had all those plus points because we worked for about 18 to 19 hours. Other people who say, how is it possible, is because they work for 8 to 10 hours. So 47 years into 8 hours more, if you multiply every day, 365 into 47 into 8 hours, will be so many hours. That is our asset, and that is how we could do it. Now the son of Professor Yuka Singh, Rohit, is a very renowned IT expert. He worked in Bangalore, in Singapore, then he came to Patna, had the experience and to know the environment in Patna and also among the different institutions, the 5-6 campuses we have in Patna. Again, he went to Bangalore, where he's working in one of the renowned American companies, heading the division. Now, we wish him good luck, and Soumya Nishi is there in Pune, who is also going to join. So all these 5-6 members team will be working together to see that whatever action plans Dr. UK Singh had envisaged are really translated into action. In that case, I have to have a guardian's role because I am 70 years of age. Dr. UK Singh was 68 years old. So elderly people have to just plan out and help the younger generation to reach the milestone of success. So friends, so far as skilling is concerned, we have to also know what type of skilling is required. There is a general feeling, many professors and thinkers have said that you are doing skilling. What about academics? What is academic advancement? I fail to understand. It means the intellectuals are not skilled. It means skilling is an activity which can go everywhere. An intellectual has to be skilled also, and rather everybody has to be skilled. It is not that skilling is something like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months program. Government of India is unfortunately thinking that they will have a parallel arrangement of skilling the persons through the Ministry of Skill Development or National Skill Development Corporation. They are wrong. It is not possible because standard cannot be maintained. They are implementing the program through spurious organizations, I must say, and they are making money and minting money, issuing certificates. There is no value unless and until the mechanism is through the universities. India has 1200 universities, including central universities, state universities, deemed universities, privately funded state universities, and institutions of national importance like IITs, NITs. They are institutions of national importance declared by the parliament. They are known as institutes, but they have a right to award a degree. Now, central universities are those which are enacted by the parliament. State universities are those which are enacted by the state governments. Again, The private universities are state universities with external funding. That is the only difference. And there is deemed university. If institutions which are trust or societies, if they are running for 5 to 10 years and they have a very specialized quality of teaching or researching on some topics which are generally not covered by the universities, have to be given to universities. Of late, nobody is understanding this rule, and general institutions are getting the status of deemed university, and then if they are trained in Hindi and they get the license for getting a deemed university with the hope that they will promote Hindi or promote English, after they start engineering and medical sciences also within 2 years. Because people do not know that it has to be a social service. It can't be a profit organization. You must earn more and more in the university, but invest everything within the university with the hope that you do not somehow dilute the quality. Anyway, but what is happening in skill development? The trainers are teaching in a wrong manner. The trainers are not trained. Wrong attendance. The trainees don't come to get trained. They get some money, and somehow the private limited companies which are given 10 crore, 20 crore, they have sub-agents. Money is evenly distributed, and nobody is getting trained. Now, I propose that all the universities must be involved, because universities are big bodies. The honorable ministers, parliamentarians, bureaucrats, all are products of universities. They cannot say that university is a useless organization. But certainly, the small, tiny organizations who have no experience, they cannot provide a skill. Of course, if the university is overlooking their function, they will be maintaining quality control. These days, no skill development program is with the help of a university. University is silent. So not only within the campus there will be skill development, but there will be centers. I propose that each university must have about 500 centers under them. For example, I give you the case of North Bihar. There is a B.R. Ambedkar Bihar University at Muzaffarpur. It covers Vaishali district, Muzaffarpur district, also East and West Champaran and Sitamarhi district. 5 districts. Now there are 7,500 villages. Don't you think that in 7,500 villages, there could be at least 500 centers? Certainly, it should be there. That way, every university could have 500 centers. Supposing in Delhi, where the population is about 20 million, 2 crore, there are many universities, so accordingly we can have more and more centers. In Delhi, there can be 5,000 centers. Accordingly, in Tamil Nadu, there can be 10,000 centers. So, by doing so, it will be quite possible if we have 500,000 skilling centers under the direct control of the university, and Ministry of Skill Development or National Skill Development Corporation can monitor and coordinate with the universities so that funds come there, and universities don't keep any funds. They spread there, that's all. The university is already getting funds from other sources, or they are generating funds. That way, there will be judicious, use of the funds located by Honorable Sri Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister or learned Prime Minister of India. This is quite possible. So that way, there will be, say, each center, we have 1,200 universities, we have somehow 500 centers under one university. Total in India, there will be about 6 lakhs or 600,000 training skilling centers. And if each center starts training even 500 students every year, we'll have 300 million, 30 crore people trained in 1 year. As we were discussing yesterday with my friends, and on 1st of August, we are going to have a webinar where we'll discuss regarding the future of skilling. I'm going to also present my views. My friend Professor Dr. Pritam Babu Sharma, P.B. Sharma, who is a renowned technocrat and a renowned educational administrator, who has been the Vice Chancellor of many universities. Now he was Vice Chancellor of Delhi Technological University, Rajiv Gandhi Technological University of Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, and now he is the Vice Chancellor of Amity University, Haryana. He will be there, and the entire design of webinar is being looked after by Honorable Dr. Markandeya Rai, who is a world-renowned expert on youth development, skill development, urbanization and habitat, who was for more than 26 years in the UN system, has come back to Delhi. He is the Senior Advisor of United Nations Habitat Division, who is the Chancellor of the Indira Gandhi Technological and Medical Sciences University for the past 2 years. And after the sad demise of Professor U.K. Singh, we have great pleasure in proposing to Honorable Dr. Markandeya Rai Sahab. I have not told him, but I am announcing, I am hoping against hope that he will certainly agree to be the new Chancellor of the Global Open University Nagaland, because with his experience, Global Open University will, grow leaps and bounds. So that way, he is the host and he will the main anchor, he will coordinate, he will also speak because he is an expert. And we have Professor Virendra Goswami, who has been a Vice Chancellor of many universities, and he was in USA and in many countries. He is a renowned technocrat and administrator. So all of us will address before about 1,000 audience who are all connected with Madan Mohan Malviya mission. Madan Mohan Malviya was the most renowned educational planner and institution builder who created Banaras Hindu University with no funds. So he knew as to how to do everything, collecting the intellectuals, collecting funds, and also getting the patronage of the local important personalities, including Maharaja of Banaras. So all those things are to be learned. So friends, I am sure the skilling program will be done accordingly. Now come to the types of courses. The Government of India has about 400 courses. Maybe half of them are obsolete. Once we have more vocations, once we have more occupations, when there was no computer activities were not there. After computer came, people said people will be unemployed. No, more vocations came, more professions came, more activities started through computers. Accordingly, hotel management or catering, applied nutrition, ecotourism, sustainable tourism, geographical information system, biotechnology, nanotechnology. Accordingly, we have to have more vocations. So, Professor U.K. Singh and myself and with my other team members, we went to many countries and we collected information from many countries. We included many more new areas. For example, we said that we should have at least 500 courses related to complementary medicine, the drugless therapy. Why we said? Because drugful therapy may be more disastrous than drugless therapy, because drugless therapy will not have any side effect. So, there are many diseases which can be cured through, I don't say that every disease can be cured through drugless therapies. So, like acupuncture, acupressure, yoga, heart yoga, flower therapy, back therapy, music therapy, chiropractic, there are 500. And we went to many countries and we collected the list, and now the list of 525 therapies which are drugless are there. And if you want, you write on the Google 525 drugless therapies, then our name will come and the list will come. The idea is to optimize the health budgets of the federal governments, central governments, the state governments. It is possible only through drugless therapies. So, if skilling is done in that area, if we provide skilling to the present homeopathic doctors and allopathic doctors and Ayurvedic doctors and yoga and naturopathy doctors regarding these new areas, they will be able to really help the patients in a good manner, because the patient, by the way, has no bias for a particular therapy. The patients would like to know how soon can they be cured. That is the only aim. It is the doctors who create all these fuss by saying that the homeopath has a bias for allopath. Allopath will hate an Ayurveda expert. No. So that way we have to join hands and see that health for all by 2030 is achieved. So while I was talking about skilling, one thing is sure. Once we increase the number of vocations, occupations, only then it will be there. So as on date, we have located 5,000 plus, more than 5,000 courses with the study materials ready. We have written to the Honorable Prime Minister. I am sure he will send the team to discuss with our team to also see that the courses we have developed are circulated over India. Very soon, the Honorable Prime Minister will ask the Honorable HRD Minister, Human Resource Development Minister of India, Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank ji, so that he asks the UGC and other related bodies to ensure that orders are issued to all the universities, central, state, private, deemed institutions of national importance, all degree granting organizations, to ensure that in their catchment areas they must locate skilling centers. And the list of courses 5,000 will be given. They may locate 4, 5, 10, 20 courses of their interest, viewing the resources there, the type of environment there, whether forest area or dominated area or agriculture area or industrial area or even mineral area or mines area, natural resources area, all those areas dependent courses will be there. And I don't say that 5,000 is final. We will also work hard and let the universities also decide. Let it go to 10,000, 20,000. The way Honorable Prime Minister wants that all the Chinese products should be banned and no import will take place, in that case, at least 100,000 new industries are required. And India has funds. The government has funds. There is a private investment possible because industries are there already. They can diversify the funds in the new industries. There are new entrepreneurs, startup companies who will also get funds from other countries. And of course, except China and North Korea and Pakistan, we can have almost all the countries trying to invest. Problem is there with Nepal. So we will like to sort it out because Nepal is a neighboring country and they are a friendly country, but somehow they are being misguided. So we are sure that they will have the correct attitude. If there is a need, we will have to go there and to bring attitudinal and behavioral change in the mind of the Honorable Prime Minister of Nepal. Because there is no age limit for lifelong and continuing education. He must acquire expert knowledge of attitudinal change, Manovritti Parivartan. In Nepali we will say Manovritti Parivartan. And in Nepali language we say Shiksha ko lagi kei umr chaina. You will feel perhaps I am speaking Maithili. No. This is actually Maithili and Nepali must be similar. Shiksha ko lagi kei umr chaina. In Shiksha ke liye koi umr adhik nahi. There is no age limit for lifelong and continuing education. I am sure the Honorable Prime Minister of Nepal will learn all this and he will invite us. I have been very close to the President, the President of Nepal. So Dr. Ram Baran Yadav, when he became the President for many years, accordingly, Honorable Mr. Oli will also be having the correct attitude to see that India and Nepal are thick friends. We will also like to see that Tibet becomes an independent country so that the cultural heritage of Tibet can be restored, and then we will do skilling in Nepal and in Tibet also. But the remaining China can't be helped because it is very difficult to educate them. A time may come after 20 years when they will also become our thick friends. Regarding skilling, we must also ensure that the type of courses we select is such that the entire need of the expert persons weaving the growth of industries and the new industrial units coming here will have no problem. They won't grudge. If foreign investment is there, they would like to have trained manpower. So once the skilling is done at this stage, at a very fast speed, they will be directly absorbed. The problem is not of being unemployed. The problem is of unemployable. Once the unemployment remains, persons will be employed if they have the skill. But if they don't have the skill, they are known as unemployable. So they will remain unemployable. So there is no solution. Unemployables have to be retrained if there are millions of unemployables because of the faulty educational system we are having. We followed the same old principle, whatever were given by the Britishers. So we have to change it. I'm sure we'll do it soon. So that way there is a big potential and we'll be working hard. The commemoration committee in the memory of Dr. UK Singh, which has been created, will further keep on working and preparing new plans to see that India becomes more clearer and greener and that India grows by leaps and bounds. With these words, I thank you once again. Jai Hind.